results in self-harm and awful outcomes for families in our province. And it's so important for people to know if someone has put pictures up of you, that there is a mechanism in British Columbia to have them taken down and removed, and there is hope, and you should reach out. We have strengthened those protections. We led on bail reform. It was British Columbia that fought hard to ensure that repeat violent offenders were kept behind bars, both in terms of domestic violence as well as general violent offenses that have taken place in our community and across the country. We led a coalition of provinces to push the federal governments. We saw a set of very significant amendments, another set in front of the Parliament right now to respond to horrific cases like the violent murder of Bailey McCourt by her former partner. Following those amendments that were made, we know of a number of cases where individuals alleged to be involved in abuse that rises to this level of a partner were kept behind bars rather than being released to cause more harm. That is a meaningful change for women who face this kind of shameful and cowardly violence. In addition, we convened a meeting in Surrey between the federal government, the provincial government, local governments south of the Fraser, as well as police leadership from all of the local detachments and the RCMP, as well as the task force on extortion, to ensure that we are all on the same page, all pushing forward in the same direction to arrest, prosecute, and deport, if necessary, the individuals involved in extortion south of the Fraser. The Canadian Border Services Agency is a key part of this team. They shared information about additional deportations, investigations that they are undertaking. As well, the team shared about search warrants and arrests that have been made that morning on the event. What came out of that meeting was confirmation that the task force is doing important work, that they are making progress, and that we will ensure that those individuals engaged in this conduct are arrested, prosecuted, and jailed. Now, this fall session delivered and focused on results for British Columbians, but we know that there's important and more work ahead. I'm really excited. In the next few weeks, I'm going to be heading up to Terrace and Prince Rupert in the Northwest to visit the sites of these huge industrial projects that will employ thousands of people, to see the opportunity that has been created through projects that our government has already delivered at the Port of Prince Rupert, and more to come, to make sure that we're meeting with leaders and workers and communities, and that we can ensure that we're doing all we can to work together to deliver the next chapter of economic growth for our province and this region going forward. Clean power, big projects, strong partnerships, delivering actual results for families. That is our focus. That is what we did during the session, and that is what we will continue to do. We've made real progress over the last few weeks, but we are still just getting started. Thanks very much. Now, I'm happy to take your questions, but I just want to note the federal government's been in touch. The government of Alberta needs to use this podium, so I'm going to have to be brief and answer as quickly as possible.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us here today on the penultimate day of session of the fall sitting. We're going to take questions from the media now. All members of the media will have one question and one follow-up. And we're going to start with Keith Baldry from Global News.
Ha, ha, ha. Thanks, Premier. Back to Domtar. The company's putting pretty well all the blame on your government's shoulders here, citing a number of policies, a lack of access to affordable fiber, a slow and cumbersome permitting system, a poor pulp pricing policy. Does the closure of this nearly 70-year-old mill and the mill in Caribou suggest your government's forest policy has essentially fallen flat and needs a complete rethink?
Thanks for the question, Keith. I mean, there is a serious challenge here. Pulp prices are very low. This mill ships to Asia. The trees that are available in the kind of immediate area that would be considered economic to pulp are old growth forests. The strategy to pulp old growth forest is certainly a solution, but it's a temporary solution, and it's not one that British Columbians support. There are permitted, many permitted cubic meters of trees available for this mill, but they're so far away from the mill that the transportation costs make it so that it is, as the company describes, uneconomic to get it to the mill. Now, I accept that our old growth policies have had this outcome, but at best that would be a temporary solution. We are keen to work with the company to find paths forward where the mill can continue to provide employment if there is an avenue available for that. We'll ensure that workers are supported, but our focus needs to be on ensuring a sustainable forest industry going forward. The combination of pine beetle, the need to protect old growth, forest fire, and low prices is incredibly challenging. The second component that we face that's quite difficult with this mill and with all pulp mills is that they get fed fiber from operating sawmills. And the sawmills that operate on Vancouver Island, as well as in other parts of the province, are down significantly because of the massive tariffs that they face from Donald Trump and the attack on our softwood industry. They have laid off shifts, they have temporarily closed, and the impact of those two hits is quite significant, and in the case of Crofton, quite devastating. We will continue to do the work. I personally visited the Crofton mill with grant support from the provincial government to help them transition from low-cost bulk paper exports to single-use cutlery. For various reasons, Domtar was unable to take advantage of that. I don't fault them for that. That was just the reality that they faced. But I also want to be clear, wherever it's possible for our government to try to assist companies in continuing to operate, identifying new markets that may be able to pay a higher premium than the products that they're producing right now, we will continue to do that work to find a way for our forest sector to be able to provide sustainable jobs going forward. It is an industry that's facing a very changed reality on the ground.
Given all these complex and negative factors that beset the industry, do you anticipate that more mill closures are inevitable? And when you talk about working with the workers here, supporting them, are we talking some sort of financial aid package or compensation?
We brought, knowing that this crisis is at our doorstep, we brought the federal government here and engaged with them and encouraged them to engage with the sector the way they do with the steel sector that has also seen significant layoffs in Ontario, to treat BC's foundational industry of forestry the same way that they treat Ontario's foundational industry of steel. And as part of the announcements, we have seen additional supports for workers come from the federal government. We have supports and training opportunities that we're able to bring to support workers. Absolutely, we need to ensure that these workers are supported, and we'll make sure that that's the case. Our first line, though, will be to examine whether there is any possibility of finding a path to keep this facility operating in some fashion. Obviously there are huge challenges there. The company is walking away not for no reason, but because it's quite challenging given the price for pulp. But if there is a way for us to continue that facility operating in some fashion, we would like to do that.
Next, we'll head to Katie DeRosa from the CBC.
Premier, the measures so far announced by the federal government on forestry really support the companies, not the workers. And I know that your government had called for those enhanced EI supports. But again, given this is a BC issue, is there anything immediate you can announce right now about filling the gaps in terms of that enhanced EI for those workers?
Yeah, the federal government announced $100 million in enhanced EI as part of their announcement. This afternoon, I'll be meeting with the union, with the mayor, and we have a group that can go out and will go out from the Ministry of Jobs in the community, a quick response table that's able to identify opportunities around retraining and employment and other opportunities as well. Part of the discussion that I hope to be able to advance is to determine if there's any way to preserve some employment at the site, keep the site operating in some way. We need to explore every possible opportunity here because I think that's the best support for the community if we're able to find a path in that regard.
The Supreme Court of Canada tomorrow is hearing a case related to the Jordan decision about the time it takes for trials to get to trial. Tomorrow, advocates of victims of sexual violence are presenting to say that there have been serious unintended consequences for cases of serious sexual assault being thrown out because of those delays. Do you share those concerns, and is there anything the province can do to respond to that?
Yeah, thanks, Katie. The Jordan decision, while I think well-intended by the court, when you're accused of a crime, you should get your day in court as quickly as possible, has failed to keep up with the realities of the kinds of trials that we see in British Columbia. So when you have multiple gang members, they all have multiple phones, They all have computers. There are millions of documents collected in a search warrant because of this. The level of evidence, electronic evidence, dash cams, doorbell video cams, street-mounted video cameras, the colossal amount of work to put together a prosecution takes time. And so it has had a profoundly distorting effect on our criminal justice system. Police now are extremely reluctant, and Crown Counsel are extremely reluctant to lay charges until everything is done, because as soon as you lay charges, the clock starts. What people see is that a gangster is arrested and then released because no charges are laid. And the reason for that is the distortions that are created by the Jordan decision. I don't think that was the intention of the Supreme Court of Canada. That is the outcome of the decision. An absolute drop-dead date where you have to be able to get the trial complete is not realistic, given the scope and scale of some of the kinds of complex cases that police and prosecutors have to deal with right now. I'm very hopeful that the Supreme Court looks at the full field. BC has done a very good job in limiting Jordan stays, where a criminal gets to walk free because of this artificial deadline, but we are not perfect. There are victims of crime that have watched abusers, predators walk free because of that deadline, despite us doing everything possible and being one of the best provinces in Canada to minimize that risk. And to me, one is too many. And so the opportunity for the court here to provide some flexibility while continuing to urge provinces to get people to court quickly is very important.
Next, we'll head to Rob Buffum from CTV.
Hi, Premier. I wanted to get your reaction, I guess, a couple of things here. Can you let us know if you're going to be in Crofton for that meeting this afternoon? And I wanted to get your reaction, given that we've heard from the company and the industry that they're placing much of the blame for what's happened with this mill on your government, not Trump tariffs. We're weeks away from Christmas, 350 people out of a job. What's your message to those folks in that community?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. The meeting will be this afternoon in my office. I understand that the head of the union and the mayor are both here, and so we'll be meeting here, and I'm grateful for them coming here. We still have some votes, and we have our work to do here in the legislature. Otherwise, of course, I would be in Crofton. With respect to the reasons for the mill closure, I accept that there are key restrictions on harvesting old growth, cutting down old growth trees that have driven up the price and access to fiber on Vancouver Island. I believe this is a necessary decision. Pulping old growth is a temporary strategy at best, and we need a long-term strategy, because that's the available, affordable fiber, as the industry calls it. They have to go further afield to get trees. Their transportation costs have gone up 40%. And that means that with very low pulp prices in Asia, combined with high costs of transportation for the trees that are available, the economics aren't working for the company, and I understand that. The other compounding factor that isn't unfortunately related to the Trump tariffs is that feedstock for these mills also, and it's not just this mill, but other mills in the province, comes from waste product from sawmills. And the sawmill waste product that feeds these pulp mills has been dramatically drawn down as well, because these mills have laid off shifts. They have temporarily closed because of the impact of, for example, for Canfor, a 46% tariff imposed by the Trump administration. And so these things are all connected. The forest industry is an ecosystem of its own, which is why it's so concerning when you see a pulp mill go down, because it has knock-on effects in other sectors. And it's why we're all hands on deck to try to figure out if there's some way to keep this facility operating, or at the very least to make sure that these workers and their families are supported, and that the community of Crofton is supported in identifying other opportunities going forward.
Follow-up, Rob?
I do. We've learned that more than half of the BC Conservative Caucus, 20 MLAs, have sent a letter saying they've lost confidence in him and they want him to step down. I wanted to get your reaction to that, and also whether or not, given that the official opposition are on the cusp of splintering in half, you've talked about an early election, others have. Can we expect there might be an early election with your opposition in shambles?
Well, first of all, we started this session with the Conservatives bringing their chaos into the legislature, focusing on their own issues. and we're finishing it that way. For our government, we're focused on British Columbians, growing the economy, ensuring that people have high quality, good paying jobs, sowing those seeds that are going to produce long-term prosperity for our province. This is not a surprise that we continue to see this chaos. We saw them bring people into the legislature that were involved in some kind of fracas at the University of Victoria involving an arrest. Like, these are the kinds of people the Conservatives brought into the legislature. It is no surprise to me with their conduct and their anti-vax conspiracy theories and their pro-Trump tweets and their YouTube bloggers that they like that hate Canada. That they're fighting among themselves. I don't know how you could hold a group together with that kind of hodgepodge of craziness. And so for us, though, I want to thank my caucus for their highly disciplined approach to focusing on what's important to British Columbians. And part of that means recognizing that British Columbians do not want an election. They want a government that is focused on what their needs are, and that's where we're going to stay focused. We're going to continue to do our work for British Columbians. We do not want an election, but we are ready for one. And there are lines we drew in the sand in this session where we said these are confidence votes. Protecting involuntary care in our Mental Health Act was a confidence vote. Ensuring that we're building the North Coast Transmission Line, 10,000 jobs and prosperity for our province, amounting to more than $50 billion. That was a confidence vote for us. We will not back away from demanding that people vote for what British Columbians support, but we definitely do not want an election right now.
Next, we'll head to Wolfgang Deppner from the Canadian Press.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. Thank you for taking my question, Premier. Premier, you mentioned that you'll be going on a tour of Kitimat, Prince Rupert, of some of the industrial projects that your government is touting. Those happen to be in the territories of coastal First Nations, and the Prime Minister has also indicated that he is planning to visit coastal First Nations to talk about the MOU. So I'm wondering what, if any, chance exists that coastal First Nations will get a visit from both you and the Prime Minister at the same time?
I don't know. I mean, anything is possible, I guess. That we're not coordinating with the Prime Minister's office. This is a chance for me to go up and visit major industrial projects in the Northwest that are going to drive prosperity for British Columbians into the future, and also for all Canadians. We're really proud of that. And it's just a chance to go and check in. There's been a lot of conversation about these communities, about the Port of Prince Rupert, about the Haisla First Nation, about these LNG projects, about the North Coast Transmission Line. It's important for me to show up and let the communities know. We also see the impacts that these projects can bring in terms of a large influx of people into the community, and to hear directly from the mayors and other key decision makers and companies up there about how we can work together to make sure this lifts everybody up.
Follow up, Wolf?
Yes, I do. Thank you. I want to go back to the Crofton mill. A couple of years ago, 3 years ago now, I think, your government offered financial support for that particular facility. The company eventually returned that funding, and here we are as of yesterday, that facility closing down. What do you make out of the theory that what we're seeing, what is sort of happening at that particular mill, might be symbolic of your government's overall forestry strategy? Thank you.
Well, in some ways it is. You know, we've worked closely with many companies to support them in diversifying their product lines into higher value products so that they're able to make more money and address some of the challenges that the sector has seen around the costs of transportation, for example, that are up about 40%. The industry's seen the same kind of inflationary pressures that families have seen and Canadians have seen and we've seen around the world. That has made their operations more challenging. So working with companies, offering those solutions, we're going to continue to do that. The challenges around particularly the coast and old growth forests, and the fact that we have protected a significant amount of old growth forest, and that old growth forest being significant feedstock for pulp mills on the coast is a challenge, absolutely, but one I believe we can overcome if we're working together. And that remains our commitment to Domtar. They have significant additional mill operations in the province. We will work with them and do our best to find a path forward so that they're able to support the workers and families of our province.
Next, we'll head to Emily Joveski from Vista Radio.
Hi, Premier. Thanks for taking my question. We've seen a lot of criticism from the new Green Party leader, Emily Lowen, of your party on, LNG expansion and, amendments to the Mental Health Act. How would you characterize your working relationship with the Green Party heading into, renegotiations of Carga?
Thanks. I think it's important and helpful that we have a dialogue with the Green Party. Obviously, we don't agree on everything. They voted against what we think is a no-brainer project, the North Coast Transmission Line. That's going to create 10,000 jobs and billions of dollars in opportunity, mining critical metals and minerals in partnership with the Tall 10, involving land protection, lifting up whole communities. I mean, it is a remarkable and significant economic initiative. So sometimes their decisions are puzzling to me. I don't know why they don't support involuntary care for people who are struggling in our streets, who are seriously mentally ill and need that help. But there's lots we do agree on. And we'll continue to find paths and opportunities to work with the Green Party going forward, and while agreeing to disagree on some pretty significant and important files.
Follow up, Emily?
And just jumping off your comments earlier about, a hodgepodge of craziness, I was just wondering, do you think One BC has been a distracting presence in the legislature this session?
Well, I'll briefly address One BC. These are people who ran as Conservatives, who were brought into the legislature by John Rustad. He surely, just spend 10 minutes talking to these people. He surely knew what their beliefs were when he approved them as candidates. And now here they are, behaving incredibly poorly in a way that's embarrassing and that brings, frankly, public confidence in all elected officials down when they see elected officials involved in an event like whatever happened at the University of Victoria. What I can say is that these individuals hid from the communities where they were elected what their plan was, which was to run on this racist, anti-Indigenous residential school denying platform. I think that most British Columbians recognize that residential schools had some huge impacts on Indigenous people, including on their culture, on their children, on their families. And to deny that that was the case is quite repugnant for a lot of people, including in Kelowna and in Vancouver, where these two individuals were elected. My sincere hope is that they are recalled. They do not, in my opinion, represent any significant portion of the views of British Columbians, and would not have been elected had they run on the platform that they are currently implementing in our legislature.
Next, we'll head to Rob Shaw from Czech News.
You have a lot of levers at your disposal to sweeten the deal to keep the Crofton Mill going, from tax breaks to grants to funding to various tenure relief to stumpage relief to, there's a whole bunch of different things you could do. What of that is on the table, including temporary old growth logging and working around Indigenous landscape planning tables that have yet to come to agreements on areas that could be logged?
Thanks, Rob. And really a wide array of supports and opportunities exist for us to work with Domtar to avoid this closure. I'm very open to those conversations, would welcome them. This was presented to us as an unavoidable decision, but our commitment to Domtar was that we would continue working with them. And if there is opportunity, obviously, we would be at the table with them and with the federal government to find a path. The jobs of the workers of Crofton are incredibly important. This facility is hugely important to the people of Crofton. It's why we showed up with Manufacturing Jobs Fund money to help the mill pivot to a different line of work. If there's something else we can do, absolutely. But the idea that we would pulp old growth in order to buy a little bit of time is not a solution we're looking for. We're looking for long-term sustainable solutions, and that continues to be the case.
I've attended or heard every one of your speeches to the truck loggers since you become premier. The last one included a promise to get the 45 million cubic feet of harvestable timber out. Unless I'm missing it, we're nowhere close to that. What are you going to say in a few weeks when you go and meet with them again when things have got demonstrably worse in almost every level of the forest sector every year that you've gone to meet them. And I think we're now at like more than 8,000 jobs lost and more than 24 mills closed in just basically your tenure as premier alone. Do you reflect on that and think maybe these policies are actually contributing to this in some way? And what are you going to say to them when they ask you that?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. There's a generational challenge that we're facing in the forest sector that would be facing anybody who's standing in this office right now, including myself. The end of the beetle kill wood, the decimation of significant parts of the land base by forest fire, the reality that there is no longer social license from British Columbians to clear-cut old-growth forest. And even if there were, there's not that much left that's not inside a park or other protected area. These realities would be facing anybody. But then when you pile on top of that the unprecedented economic attack of the President of the United States, including tariffs that are 46% on one forest company alone in British Columbia, as well as record low prices for wood in the United States because of the collapse in home building in key markets like Texas. Like, this is just a huge array of challenges. And I accept absolutely that our work needs to and must continue on permitting and ensuring that we're getting trees that companies are able to use. But when a company is laying off shifts and closing because of tariffs, like we have, the forest minister told me we have 7 million cubic meters of permitted trees on Vancouver Island that are available right now that can't be used because between the low prices and the cost to cut down those trees, but particularly to transport them to the facility is such that it's uneconomic. The pulp prices faced by Domtar when they ship to Asia are so low that they can't put the gas in the trucks to get the trees to the mill that are available on Vancouver Island. These are structural challenges that we have to address. It will require a restructuring and a revisioning of the forest sector. It is a conversation that the companies are more willing to engage in now, but none of that is going to take the place of what is needed, which is an agreement with the United States. If we can get a softwood agreement with the United States, get some stabilization there, it'll be transformative for the industry. It'll take huge pressure off. But right now, it is quite a catastrophic scenario from every direction.
Next, we'll head to Shannon Waters from the Narwhal.
Hi, Premier. I wanted to ask about the Clean BC review that we got this session. In 2018, when Clean BC was launched, it was described as a world-leading climate plan, and awards were won, and that world-leading phrase came up a lot in the way the government talked about the plan. Marin Smith says BC no longer has a world-leading climate plan and that the province has some work to do if it wants to recapture that title. She also said that part of the reason that the province has sort of lagged is that the government didn't take actions that were in that original plan. We don't have a lot of details about what's going to happen with this review. I believe the minister's comment was that they're going to take a look at it, but what are you expecting will come as a result of this review, and are you committed to bringing BC back to the leading edge of climate action?
Yeah, thanks. I guess I just disagree with your presentation. I mean, when you look at just take electric cars. You look across Canada and North America, adoption of electric vehicles over the period of the Clean BC plan. We're like number one or number two only to California, which is a much larger market than we are. We're going to hit 10,000 electric car chargers in the province way in advance of 2030. And that's just one example. Per capita emissions, despite significant growth in the BC economy, are down. Emissions per unit of GDP are down. We have continued to drive down emissions. And particularly where we're driving down emissions is in the oil and gas sector, where we are leading Canada and I think also North America in methane emissions regulations. Not sexy, not the kind of thing that leads newscasts, unfortunately, but reality that we worked with the industry and dramatically reduced those emissions faster than anywhere else in Canada. And some of our frustration about why methane emissions were negotiated with Alberta at a slower pace that gives them a competitive advantage compared to BC that has a higher standard without us being at the table through the MOU process. We will continue to lead on climate change. The decision not to continue with the carbon tax when people are facing huge affordability challenges was about the reality that we don't want people to have to choose between taking action on climate change and being able to support their families. And so that's why you see us taking action in different ways. The North Coast transmission line and the 2 calls for power are about electrifying our province and driving down emissions from industry and growing our economy at the same time and creating jobs that support families across the province. British Columbians want us to take action on climate change, and they need to be able to make ends meet as well. And that's the program that we're putting together. I'm very grateful to Dan and Marin for doing that review. They provided us with some very helpful direction, and I look forward to working with my colleagues to ensure that we continue to lead in driving down emissions in Canada and North America.
And for a follow-up, I'm torn, but I want to go back to the spring session and Bill 15, which your government said it needed to pass as soon as possible because it needed the powers to designate provincially significant projects. We've since seen the federal government move ahead with sort of a similar approach. They are now assessing projects under the Major Projects Office to potentially be designated as, projects of national priority significance. BC is still working on the regulations, and I noticed the timeline is March 2026 for closing the last phase. I guess, can you explain to us why that bill had to pass in the spring and when you might anticipate BC designating its first provincially significant project under that legislation?
Yeah, thanks. There were a number of components to that bill. One of the components was the ability to designate major projects. The other was internal trade related provisions. And a third component was about being able to prefer products from British Columbia suppliers, Canadian suppliers, and our trading partners around the world. All of those components really vital to moving forward. BC led Canada in tearing down the barriers around internal trade. We're pushing our colleagues across the country to do more on food. It doesn't make any sense that food produced in BC can't be shipped very easily and sold in Ontario without any additional regulation. We still don't have wine access to Ontario. These are the kinds of things that are very frustrating, especially when I hear the multiple announcements from the Premier of Ontario about his commitment to tear down these barriers. Let's do it. No more signed agreements. Let's just do it. BC continues to push on this. And so a number of those pieces have come to fruition. There was, you will recall, there was significant anxiety from Indigenous partners about Bill 14 in particular and the major project designation. So we've taken more time with the regulations with partners to be able to get it right. We know that the only path forward to moving quickly is in partnership with Indigenous people. And that has been our success so far in putting all those major projects on the board with the federal government, and it will be our success going forward. Bill 15 was about the North Coast transmission line, and I'm sorry to go item by item, but these were really important bills. By being able to designate the regulator that we use to regulate the oil and gas industry for this transmission line means that we can start construction, and we are starting construction in March. And so the North Coast transmission line was the first project to benefit from the legislative approach in Bills 14 and 15. For the regulations on the major projects, we'll be completing that work with First Nations, and then we'll be able to designate projects as required.
We have time for one more question. We're going to head to Andrew McLeod from the Tyee.
Yeah, hi, Premier. Detail from last week, the MOU between Alberta and Canada had stuff in it about the further expansion of the Trans Mountain pipeline. Danielle Smith in her comments said that you had told her on the phone or in a conversation that you supported that. Is she correct? And what's your thinking on it?
Thanks. Yeah, I guess the challenge that we have as a province is we have this big publicly owned pipeline that feeds into Vancouver, costs taxpayers $30 billion. First of all, it's not at capacity. Secondly, significant additional capacity could be added through an optimization project. I will acknowledge through gritted teeth, this is not something that we're keen about, but we understand the role that we play. We have access to ports, that we need to be a good partner to Alberta. We are absolutely willing to engage in those conversations about optimizing that publicly owned facility that taxpayers have paid for. But the frustration is obviously that apparently that's not sufficient, that there also needs to be that British Columbia agrees, even in the absence of any project, to get rid of the oil tanker ban off of the North Coast, which is the foundational keystone to Indigenous support for all of the projects we put on the major projects board with the federal government. I continue to try my best to explain that we need to keep our eye on the prize, deliver actual projects that have permits and proponents and money and are ready to go, like the projects British Columbia is bringing forward, like potentially the optimization project on TMX, instead of potentially frustrating or challenging those projects by threatening the oil tanker ban off the Northwest Coast. It's too important an area, and it's too crucial that we protect the $1.7 billion in annual economic activity, the 2,000 jobs that coast depends on.
Yeah, and so last time there was debate around expanding the TMX. Part of the opposition from the NDP in particular was around the increased tanker traffic out of the Port of Vancouver and through the Strait of Juan de Fuca. What would you say to people who are still concerned about increased tanker traffic there?
Yeah, it's obviously a concern. The spill response will need to be proportionate. Unfortunately, because of the dredging situation, the draft of these boats, there are actually more boats than are necessary that have to be used because they're only filled 3/4 of the way. And we could actually reduce the number of boats potentially if they were filled up all the way by being able to do some dredging, is what I'm advised. So these are the kinds of conversations that we should be having. Are there ways that we can reduce risk by having fewer sailings but still achieve the market access? These are the win-win kind of conversations that we can have, but we can't have them if we're not at the table.
Thank you very much, everyone. That concludes today's event.
Here's what nobody's telling you about the new bearskin hoodie. This fleece is thick. It's made from 340 GSM of bearskin fleece, which is super warm, wind blocking, and regulates body heat like a beast.
You need the new 340 GSM military grade bearskin hoodie to get comfortable in the wild. It's the ultimate 10-pocket tactical hoodie that blocks wind, repels rain, and regulates heat for incredible comfort wherever you are. It's the only winter hoodie that's built for working, fishing, hunting, camping, or conquering foreign lands. Thousands of men around the world already love wearing the bearskin hoodie instead of their regular hoodies. With over 21,000 five-star reviews on Trustpilot. Plus, now you can attach the new Heavy Storm rain jacket to the inside of the hoodie for an instant 10,000 millimeter waterproof layer that blocks the rain double time. Finally, a functional hoodie you can actually take outside and customize to make it yours. You're seeing this video because we want to offer you 60% off the bearskin hoodie with fast and free delivery from our Kentucky warehouse. And you may not see this video again, so click the button below now to reserve your order. Need more storage? Get 5 secure zip pockets outside, 2 concealed zip pockets on the inside, and 3 fleece-lined drop pockets on the inside for your valuables. So, does the bearskin hoodie actually look good on a day-to-day basis? No, it looks fantastic. With the fully adjustable design, you'll get that perfect square profile that's never too bulky or baggy, with a customized fit that's tailored to you. That's why everybody knows that guys look better in a bearskin. This is a hoodie that you can take out in the wild, wear at home or in the office, or while climbing up a glacier on your hands and knees. So, if you're still watching this by now, you probably know that you need a bearskin. So if you're ready, click the button below now to activate the 60% off deal and get fast and free delivery. The bearskin hoodie already sold out twice last winter, with loads of incredible reviews from People.com, Muscle and Fitness, as well as Mountain IQ. Bearskin also proudly supports the fallen outdoors and
Oral questions, questions orales, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Minister of Heritage is fed up, Mr. Speaker, and Canadians are fed up as well. Fed up of paying $16,800 on groceries every year. Fed up with paying 51% more on groceries. Fed up with paying 30% more on beef. Fed up with paying 21% more for whole chickens. Mr. Speaker, how many people will this Prime Minister force to the food bank before he, too, gets fed up? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I am happy that inflation in Canada is lower. It's 2.2%, according to the Consumer Price Index. Second thing, I am proud of that salaries are on the rise. 3.2% higher. We are making progress. Joblessness is down. The economy is growing. Life is good. There you have it. He's happy with grocery prices. According to a report on food prices in Canada, when this Liberal government took power, it cost $8,300 per year for an average family to purchase groceries. Now it costs $16,800. Grocery prices doubled due to the inflation driving taxes and deficits that have driven up the price of everything. The Prime Minister promised that he could be judged by grocery prices. So, how much will it cost to eat in 2026? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I fully understand why the opposition leader is ignoring the fact that this is a new Canadian government, one that has created the strongest economy in the G7. That's the truth. That's what the numbers show. That is the future of our great country.
According to Canada's food price report, when the Liberals took office, the cost of a basket of groceries was $8,300. Now, it's $16,800, double. Liberal inflationary deficits and taxes on farm equipment, fertilizer, food processors have all exploded the cost of food. Tomorrow, that same report will be released projecting the cost for next year. Given the Prime Minister has promised to be judged by the prices at the grocery store, how much will Canadians have to spend on groceries to survive next year?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let's get our numbers straight. The Canadian economy is the strongest growing economy in the G7, 2.6% annualized. Canadian wages are growing faster than inflation for every month that this government has been in office, 3.2%, over 2.2%. Unemployment is down, wages are up, the land is strong, we're moving forward.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, as you walk down the grocery aisle, watching the prices rise before your eyes, know that the Prime Minister, who stashes his cash in a tax haven, says that you've never had it so good. You, the Canadian people who have seen your grocery bills literally double under this government, from $8,300 to $16,800 in a decade.
Shameful.
Tomorrow, we will find out in the Canada Food Price Report how much groceries will cost an average family next year. Given the Prime Minister has promised to be judged on the price of groceries, will he tell Canadian families how much they'll have to pay to survive?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what this government is happy to tell Canadian families is we cut their taxes for 22 million Canadians. We cut the taxes on first-time home buyers. And we are investing. We are investing a budget which the Leader of the Opposition and the members opposite voted against. A budget that is going to cause $1 trillion of investment in this country over the next 5 years, grow jobs, grow futures for Canada. We believe in Canada. Come join us.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
We voted against this Prime Minister doubling Justin Trudeau's deficit, which will drive up groceries even more. And what's he spending the money on? On corporate bailouts for companies that ship jobs out of Canada. The Prime Minister promised he would negotiate a win and have a deal by July 21st. Still no win, still no deal, still no elbows. And now 1,000 workers at Algoma Steel are losing their jobs. We now learn that the Prime Minister gave $400 million to the corporate executives of that company without any job guarantees. How is it the Prime Minister could have been so incompetent to saddle Canadians who can't afford to pay their bills with a $400 million bailout bill without any guarantee of jobs staying in Canada?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, these are difficult times in Sault Ste. Marie, and our hearts go to the families. But as I quote the CEO of Algoma Steel, that there would be an even darker day if this government hadn't acted. Exactly. That loan, that support, saved 2/3 of those jobs. That loan, that support gives Algoma a bridge to the future that we are building strong in this country and that they voted against.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
As long as the CEO is happy with the $400 million gift he got from the Prime Minister, that's all that matters to these Liberals. He didn't give the workers a bridge to the future, he gave them a bridge to the unemployment lines, 1,000 of them. 1/3 of the workers at Algoma in Sault Ste. Marie have now lost their jobs after the Prime Minister paid to have those jobs shipped abroad. How is it that he could have been so irresponsible with the money of hardworking Canadians that he would pay a corporate CEO $400 million to send 1,000 jobs south?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, may I quote a Conservative leader that's actually in office? The Premier of Ontario. We had a choice. Save 2/3 of the jobs or let the company go down. We chose the future. We chose the future for Algoma Steel so they can invest in the future, so we can buy Canadian, so we can build this country. They had an opportunity to vote for that future. They voted against it. It's good that we're here.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Canadian Heritage and Nature left in his words, to start some reflection because the Liberal Party neglected their progressive wing. They only won as many seats as they did because Bloc supporters voted for the Liberals. After the member for Laurier Sainte Marie left, the Prime Minister appointed a replacement, but who will speak for language, culture, and Quebec? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. May I? Mr. Speaker, we have 44 MPs here speaking for Quebec. And Mr. Speaker, as Prime Minister, as an Anglophone, I will still protect the French language. I will protect Quebec culture. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Well, if the Prime Minister keeps behaving like an autocrat, he might have a chance to run for election again. People voted in the Liberals with the climate in mind. They also voted in the government with trade negotiations in mind, and the Prime Minister is neglecting both of these files. He is not doing what he said he would, and he is doing what he said he would not. Why doesn't he listen to his former minister? Mr. Speaker, I am continuing to work towards our climate goals because we need major investments, not just rules. We need investment in clean electricity in Quebec, in nuclear power in Alberta and Ontario. We need investment in carbon capture. We will get all of this done. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister seems to think that nuclear energy is clean energy. This is the Prime Minister who is getting rid of the emissions cap, including for the production of electricity. When you lose your voters, it's hard to get them back. For his own good, then, will the Prime Minister give up his oil agenda, restore his climate agenda, and start caring about Quebec? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we will strengthen our climate agenda. We have only begun to invest in the sector. For example, in the budget, there are $4 billion invested in Hydro-Quebec and clean electricity through investment tax credits. And that is only the start of a major project.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Liberals love to give corporate bailouts and handouts to companies that ship jobs out of our country. Now we learn the Liberal government has pledged $15 billion, or $1,000 for every tax-paying family in Canada, people who can't afford food, to Stellantis. And Mr. Speaker, investment is fleeing this country almost as fast as the Prime Minister is running out the back door of Parliament right now. Why won't he?
The honourable member knows that that's offside. The honourable member knows. To the next question, which is also that of the Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister gets angry and runs out the door rather than answering the questions about the cost.
He didn't say he wasn't here.
$15 billion out the door. $1,000 for every tax-paying family to a company that is shipping jobs out of the country. Why is he sending our dollars away, our jobs away, while he runs away?
L'honorable ministre des Finances.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Question on this side of the House, every single member on this side, Mr. Speaker, we're fighting for Canada. We're fighting for auto industry. We're fighting for our workers. We're fighting to build Canada strong, Mr. Speaker. We should all join to defend our workers in the middle of a trade war. We don't need that kind of conservative politics. We need to stand up for Canada, build Canada strong. I believe in Canada, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister can't stand up for workers if he can't even stand up in the House of Commons. And that Finance Minister is the one that signed the sweetheart $15 billion subsidy deal.
I've got company here.
Just do the job.
I've got company. I didn't hear the beginning of the question. The member did lose one question, but I'd like him to start from the top on that one.
The Minister cannot stand up for workers if he cannot even stand up and answer my questions, Mr. Speaker. And that Finance Minister is not stood up for workers either. He signed a $15 billion sweetheart subsidy deal with Stellantis. And now, that same company, taking our tax dollars, the equivalent of $1,000 for every family in Canada, is shipping the jobs to the United States of America. The current industry minister says she has not even read the $15 billion contract. Has the Prime Minister even read the contract, or did he simply look at the $15 billion deal and say, who cares?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians who are watching at home are looking at someone whose only deed is ever made was to come to this House, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we have always stood to make sure we will build this country. We will attract investment, Mr. Speaker. He should be ashamed. Ask Canadian, when is the last deal he brought in this country, Mr. Speaker? Ask him when he created one job in his country apart his own job, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we will always stand for workers. We will bring investment. We will build a strongest economy in the G7 because we believe in Canada. We're going to fight, Mr. Speaker, every single day for Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
We're going to go and report to the Prime Minister to the Witness Protection Program because he refuses to stand in this House and answer about his government's expenditure of $15 billion, $1,000 for every Canadian family to one company, supposedly to create jobs. That same company now ships those jobs south of the border, and the government is covering up the contract. Yesterday, we learned from the company that they don't have any reason to retract the contract. So why doesn't the government release the full details of the contract so that Canadians can find out how badly the Prime Minister ripped them off?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
3 points. First, he should ask the member from Windsor to come see from his side of the House whether she agrees with what he says regarding the Stellantis workers in Windsor. First. Second, when it comes to the documents, the committee members will have access to all the documents. That's a moot question. That's right. Third, when it comes to what is happening with Stellantis at Brampton, we had a contract. They broke the contract. Stellantis did. We'll get our money back, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
3 points, Mr. Speaker, about this $15 billion bailout and handout. She didn't read the contract, she didn't read the contract, and she didn't read the contract. How can she possibly claim she's going to get the money back when she doesn't know what legal powers are in the contract? Because she admits she didn't read the contract, Mr. Speaker. So my question to her, as families are lining up at food banks because they can't afford food, how does she justify charging every single household $1,000 for a handout to a company shipping jobs south of the border?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, first and foremost, I didn't admit that. Second, I read the contract. And third, the committee members will have all the details. That being said, Mr. Speaker, what we'll do is we will fight for these jobs. We know that the workers are affected in the auto sector, in the steel sector, by the unjustified and unjustifiable American tariffs. And we will make sure that we get these jobs back to Canada, and we'll fight for every single job, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, I had the honour to stand with the Unifor workers in Brampton who were out in the rain and the cold. There was not a Liberal around, not a word from the Prime Minister. All of them wanted to know what was happening with their jobs. The Liberals had given money to Stellantis for that plant, given $15 billion to Stellantis for another plant. And those workers, out in the cold, unable to afford their mortgages, were wondering how it was possible for this Prime Minister to give $15 billion without even guaranteeing their jobs. Does he have the courage to stand up now and explain it to their face?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, I don't need any lesson. We don't need at least any lesson from the Conservatives when it comes to courage and standing up for workers that are unionized. That is why I was in Brampton along with the workers, and that is why I was even talking to Lana Payne a bit earlier today, because you know what she was telling me? She was saying to me how much the Harper government and the Conservative government in 2009, when the government at the time decided to bail out GM and Chrysler, they did nothing to protect the workers, and that is what is their record when it comes to the auto sector.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister asked an interesting question. Who cares? Who cares, he asked. Well, he's not there, so he doesn't care, Mr. Speaker.
I assume that the member meant somehow metaphorically. Yeah. But maybe next time, not so many metaphors.
It was a metaphor, just like all those Liberal promises, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, unfortunately today we learned even more terrible news. The Domtar workers in British Columbia have lost their jobs as a 30th mill has closed under this Liberal government. The Prime Minister promised that he would get a deal to end the tariffs, and those tariffs have tripled, all while he removes the legal challenge against the illegal softwood lumber tariffs. How is it the Prime Minister broke his promise and sold out our lumber workers?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
I'm glad the member opposite has realized there is a trade war. That trade war is creating challenging times for the people of Crofton, and we understand that. I was on the phone with the CEO today working on new solutions to retool that mill. I was on the phone with the Minister of Forestry looking at new fiber solutions for the mill. We are standing up for the forestry industry. They just complain.
The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised to build one Canadian economy. He wasn't lying. He built one sole economy, one filthy Western oil economy, pipelines. He said he was building a pipeline due to Donald Trump, but not 1 inch of pipeline will be built during the Trump presidency. However, the pipeline will pollute for the next 40 years. This is a betrayal not just of Quebec, but of all the countries who have not given up the fight against climate change. How can these Liberals look themselves in the mirror? The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Mr. Speaker, I am happy to talk about how we will build Canada strong. When we talk about this, we are talking about hydroelectricity in Iqaluit, the high-speed train between Toronto and Quebec City, all using Canadian steel and aluminum. These are very important projects, and there will be many others. For example, the graphite mine in Quebec. They will create good jobs in Canada and a strong future for our country. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, regardless of what the minister said, Quebecers did not vote in Liberals for them to abandon the fight against climate change and transform Canada into a planetary nuisance. They did not vote for Liberals in order to get a pipeline rammed down the throat of another province. They did not vote for Liberals in order to make our children live through more and more natural disasters. Quebecers did not vote for that. And there's a lot of Liberals who did not vote for that either. Are they not fed up with swallowing this dreck?
L'honorable ministre de l'identité de la culture canadienne.
The Honourable Minister of Identity and Canadian Culture. Mr. Speaker, this morning, I learned that the separatist movement wants to impose a loyalty test on Quebec artists. I wonder if the Bloc believes in that. It would be surprising because they didn't talk about culture during the budget debate. Quebec separatists do not have a monopoly on Quebec pride. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, not 10 days, not 5 days, not 2 days, just 1 day after inheriting the official languages file, the minister from Ville-Marie said he was fed up with talking about the decline of French in Quebec. As Mathieu Bocoté said so well, it's the usual federal Liberal denial, exasperation, and scorn about the future of French in Quebec. Mr. Speaker, does the Prime Minister realize that he made a monumental mistake when he appointed the least competent Liberal to the most important position to defend the French language in Canada and Quebec? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, there's no one in Canada who thinks that Pierre Poilievre would protect French. I think, yes. He made a mistake, but he still has the floor. I retract the member's name, Mr. Speaker. I know the current member for Carleton will do more to defend French than the previous member for Carleton. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. The opposition would never have appointed a unilingual Anglophone Governor-General, I can say that much. We're all fed up on this side of the House. Like all Quebecers, Conservatives are fed up with former Justin Trudeau ministers, fed up with ministers who break our immigration system, fed up with ministers who refuse to recognize the decline of French, fed up with ministers that don't care about Quebec culture. Mr. Speaker, when will the Prime Minister also get fed up with this new minister? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure they're fed up after spending 10 years on the opposition benches. I'm sure they're fed up with having to vote against dental care and official languages legislation. I'm sure they're fed up with having to vote against renewable energy in Quebec. They must be really fed up after losing elections with 3 consecutive leaders and facing a defeat with a 4th.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
Speaker, the Liberal government handed Algoma Steel $400 million and got 0 Canadian jobs in return. Now, 1,000 workers in Sault Ste. Marie are getting pink slips just weeks before Christmas. Worse, the Liberals knew about these layoffs, and they wrote them the check anyway. They looked steelworkers in the eye and promised to fight for them. The promise turned out to be a $400 million lie, and they knew it from day one. So can anyone over there explain why corporate welfare matters more than Canadian jobs?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, it's pretty clear that those Conservatives wouldn't have lifted a hand to help save our steel industry in Canada. That's pretty clear from the nature of the questions. But more than that, Mr. Speaker, do you know what happens when you lose your job? It's a time of panic. And that's why we extended EI for 20 weeks for long-tenured workers. Mr. Speaker, they'll mock this. You know why? Because they voted against it. They voted against the very supports that people need in times of stress. Canadians know we have their backs in the good times and bad.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
The minister actually needs to get her story straight. $400 million to executives at Algoma Steel, but 0 for the people who actually make the steel. And that means 1,000 people are out in the cold at Christmas. Nobody over there has a reasonable explanation for this deal. And this isn't the first time that this mega-dollar mess has been caused. The Liberal minister already admitted that she doesn't read contracts. So I want to know, did the Algoma Steel catch the minister not reading, or is it that just the minister doesn't care?
Yeah!
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
I know they don't know much about working together and collaboration, but Doug Ford does. The Premier of Ontario is working just as hard as this government to save those jobs in Sault Ste. Marie. That's why we made a $400 million loan to Algoma Steel, because we know that those jobs are important, that company is important to the future of Canada, and that we need a sovereign steel industry in this country. These guys would have let it all go, Mr. Speaker. That's pretty clear.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton East, Stony Creek.
Yesterday we found out that the Liberals knew Algoma was planning to lay off 1,000 steel workers before giving the company $400 million. I guess the Prime Minister was speaking the truth. He really doesn't care about protecting Canadian jobs. You know who does care? Conservatives care. And so do the thousands of Hamilton steel and manufacturing workers who go to bed every night wondering if they're going to have a job in the morning. Why is it with these Liberals there's always a guarantee for corporate welfare, but 0 guarantees for the Canadian worker?
L'Honorable Ministre de l'Industrie.
When my colleague is talking about corporate welfare, what I'm saying to him is actually that workers are worth every dime, and particularly Algoma ones in light of the American unjustified tariffs. Right. And that is exactly why we decided, along with the Conservatives in Ontario, actually with Doug Ford's government, to support the company as it was facing existential threat. The company was not going well. We knew we needed to help. We decided to make the investments, and meanwhile, we know that the future can be brighter because we're working on 2 things: a steel plant, a beam mill, and a plate mill for defense and infrastructure.
L'Honorable Député de Terrebonne.
Monsieur le Président, Mr. Speaker, this summer, Canadians from coast to coast to coast cheered on Burlington, Ontario's teenage tennis sensation, Victoria Mboko, en route to her victory at the National Bank Canadian Open. Can the Secretary of State for Sport share how this inspiring achievement reflects Canada's growth as a sporting nation and the importance of making tennis and all sports accessible to everyone?
Secrétaire d'État au sport.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport. Absolutely, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the member for Terrebonne for that excellent question. Victoria Moko's victory at the National Bank Canadian Open reminds us that it is critical to make sport accessible to all Canadians. That's why our government champions sport as a nation-building project. Victoria proves that when we open doors to sport, Canada wins. And we are going to build a strong sports system which will make our nation proud.
The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
It's time for some facts on the Stellantis contract in the Brampton Assembly Plant. Fact, the Minister of Industry didn't read the contract and as a reward was promoted to Finance Minister. Fact, there's no job guarantee in this contract or they couldn't have laid off 3,000 workers. Fact, they gave $200 million to Stellantis with no conditions. Even Ontario didn't advance the money exactly because of that. Fact, 3,000 auto workers in Brampton are out of work and struggling to make ends meet. How the hell are they so incompetent?
Good question. The Honourable, whoa. Let's be careful about. Let's be careful about some of the words we use. People are watching at home. Their kids are watching. The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Francis, my mother is scandalized. Speaking of facts, including creating opportunities for the workers in Brampton, here's some facts. The Prime Minister secured $70 billion investment from the UAE into Canada. The German Navy has committed $1 billion for Canadian-made defense equipment. Finnish Nokia recently broke ground on a new $340 million facility in Ottawa. And a few weeks ago, Malaysia Petronas signed a 20-year deal to secure energy from Canada. This is what creating opportunities for workers looks like, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
That answer is unbelievable. We have a minister who didn't read a contract.
Didn't read it.
We have a minister who admits he didn't read the contract, and he's promoted to becoming the finance minister. They talk about there's a job guarantee for workers in Brampton, and there clearly isn't. 3,000 assembly workers in Brampton are out in the cold as Christmas approaches collecting EI. They talk about some contracts and other things, but are doing nothing to get the workers back into their plants. They talk about extended EI. I've met with those workers. They want to be in the plant. They want their jobs back. What are they doing to get the jobs back for those workers?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Speaker, here's what is believable. 37,922 jobs through 15 procurement projects across this country. $106.3 billion of investment in our defence sector. The opposition should clamp down on the negativism, help build this country forward, get behind our defence sector, get behind our defence industrial strategy. Let's grow this economy for our people and our future.
The honourable member for Carleton Trail Eagle Creek.
After being ordered to hand over their multi-billion-dollar subsidy deal with Stellantis unredacted, the Liberals refused, with senior officials blaming the company, stating, and I quote, Stellantis outlined every redaction they felt to be necessary, and that they were, quote, comfortable with the redactions they proposed. Problem is, Stellantis has now gone public, saying they never asked for the documents to be blacked out. Will the minister tell us why her officials lied to committee and Canadians?
That's a good question.
We're not quite ready yet. We're not quite ready yet. The minister is very popular. The Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Once again, they're calling down Canada, they're calling down Saskatchewan. And as the leader of the opposition pontificates from the comfort of Stornoway, Mr. Speaker, our leader, the Prime Minister of Canada, is busy fighting for every inch of trade opportunity in this changing world. The men on this side, men and women on this side of the House are helping win that fight, and Canada is going to continue that fight with or without the opposition.
The honourable member for Chilliwack Pope.
The Prime Minister promised Canadians he was going to negotiate a win with the Americans and that he could handle Donald Trump. Well, not only has he failed to get a deal, but softwood lumber tariffs have tripled under his watch, and he's unilaterally abandoned legal challenges against these tariffs. Now, another mill on Vancouver Island is closing, killing nearly 1,500 direct and indirect jobs. They don't want handouts. They want to keep working. So when will the Prime Minister finally keep his promise to get a lumber deal so that forestry workers stop losing their jobs?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Come on. He's good. Mr. Speaker, as we said, we're in a trade war. It's hurting the people of Crofton. It's hurting the entire forestry industry. That's why we were on the phone talking with the company about how to retool the factory. Mr. Speaker, that's why we were on the phone with the Minister of Forestry in BC looking at fibre solutions. They complain, we do the work. We're standing with the forestry sector.
The honourable member for North Island, Powell River.
Devastated, gutted, heartbroken. Just three of the emotions I felt after learning 375 Canadians would be losing their jobs with the closing of the Crofton Mill. These are Canadians with mortgage payments, with young families, Canadians who are already struggling with the rising cost of living before receiving this terrible news. This government promised to support our workers and secure market access for our goods. Instead, lumber tariffs have tripled and thousands of Canadians have lost their jobs. If their so-called plan is really working, can they guarantee that no more mills in Canada will close as a result?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, that Conservative member needs to take several seats. On my riding of Vancouver Island, supporting the softwood lumber industry, whereas their plan is to, quote, get out of the way, to, quote, do nothing. Our government is investing in...
The honourable member for Mission Matsqui, Abbotsford. No, not from the top, but the member can keep going. The member maybe can keep going. We'll see. We'll see.
31.
Okay. The Honourable Secretary of State for Senior.
Mr. Speaker, in my riding of Esquimalt-Saanich-Sooke and on Vancouver Island, folks know that this government has the backs of the softwood lumber industry and the workers, whereas those folks, the Conservatives, would do nothing. Their plan is simply to get out of the way, where we're providing real supports.
The honourable member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Mr. Speaker, 375 workers at our local Crofton mill are losing their jobs 10 days before Christmas. 150 jobs gone in Chemainus, 165 in 100 Mile House, 31 BC towns gutted so far because these Liberals broke their promise to get a deal. The Prime Minister's take on stalled talks? Who cares, he said. There's no burning issues. Well, the people who lost their jobs yesterday care. Their families know this is a burning issue. After these latest losses, why should anyone trust this Prime Minister to get a softwood lumber deal?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, the softwood lumber industry is incredibly important to British Columbia, and we stand with the workers, the 375 individuals. We are here to stand with them. British Columbia knows the importance of this industry, and this government is going to invest in it to support them.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Ponoka-Disbury.
Mr. Speaker, this morning the radical ex-Minister of the Environment and Greenpeace stuntman said, "I sincerely doubt that the new pipeline will ever get built." As the head of the Liberal Keep It in the Ground caucus, he has continuously poured cold water on the MOU, saying that there's no project, no route, no consensus, and no private sector proponent. The former minister knows what the Prime Minister won't admit, that the West Coast tanker ban makes any project impossible. Will the Prime Minister repeal the tanker ban so we can get our resources to market, or is a new pipeline really just a pipe dream?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite should speak with the Premier of Alberta, who seems very hopeful that we can work together. Rather than put Canada down, we can work together to build this country in an environmentally responsible way in partnership with Indigenous peoples. That's how we build Canada strong.
Member for Ponoka-Disbury.
Prime Minister isn't serious about building a pipeline. His former orange jumpsuit minister has said that an MOU with Alberta was not an approval of a pipeline. He knows that a decade of his government's anti-resource extraction laws has made it impossible to find a private sector proponent. Just like the NDP Premier of British Columbia, this Prime Minister is hiding behind a tanker ban that blocks Canadian resources from getting to market and will block any future projects. All while U.S. tankers can sail freely through the very same Canadian waters. Will this Prime Minister admit that the last decade of Liberal rule has been a failure and repeal all of the stupid job-killing Trudeau laws?
Two votes, that's going to take a certain amount of time. I think most members want to end the question period in a timely manner. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To listen to these members of Parliament from Alberta is to get a taste of real dejection, Mr. Speaker.
That's right.
Real dejection that what? A Prime Minister of Canada and a Premier of Alberta put their signatures to a solemn document that does what? That creates major possibilities in renewable power, in electric generation, in carbon sequestration, Mr. Speaker, in resource development, in making Canada a renewable and conventional energy superpower. Those guys are pretty disappointed about that, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Edmonton Northwest.
The Prime Minister disrespected chiefs by shutting them out of the MOU consultations and discussions with Alberta. The Prime Minister talked down to First Nation chiefs yesterday at AFN about not breaking trust for 20 minutes, but then he completely ignored all questions from Alberta First Nations. The Prime Minister is breaking trust with First Nations, he's breaking trust with investors, he's breaking trust with Albertans, British Columbians, his caucus and his own cabinet on whether he'll build a pipeline or not. Will he show real leadership by committing to a pipeline today or continue to just divide Canadians?
Yeah, way to go, Bill!
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations.
Mr. Speaker, our government continues to respect and acknowledge the important work that they're doing as First Nations leaders across this country. Our ministers have been busy all week listening to rights holders, going to the meetings. I myself, as a former First Nations National Youth Council member and a former regional chief, know the important work that goes into development of resolutions, all of the different debates that they have. Our government is listening, and we look forward to building our country together with First Nations.
The honourable member for Les Pays d'en Haut.
Mr. Speaker, Canada and especially Quebec have a world-leading aerospace industry. We are currently building the strongest economy in the G7, and our aerospace sector, which in Quebec alone generates $15 billion in GDP with more than 40,000 jobs, will play a huge role in that. The Budget Implementation Act contains important measures to protect our aerospace sector. Quebecers want to see those measures come in. Can the Minister of Finance remind those who are blocking the budget implementation how they are hurting the Quebec aerospace sector? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, indeed, in Budget 2025, there is a lot of good news. Our budget sends a clear message that the aerospace sector is a strategic asset for Canada. Canada is one of the few countries in the world that has a flourishing aerospace sector, thanks to the talent and expertise and know-how of our workers. In Budget 2025, we are making generational investments in defense to support the aerospace industry. But what's really shocking is that the Bloc Québécois is going to vote against Quebec's interests in the budget, and that's really a crying shame.
Yesterday, when responding to questions about the Parliamentary Budget Officer's report on housing, the Prime Minister lectured Canadians saying, "You don't know numbers." And then the Housing Minister said the Parliamentary Budget Officer was just wrong on his. Well, let me give him the numbers again. Can they solve for this equation? The Prime Minister promised 500,000 new homes a year. His housing bureaucracy will deliver only 5,200 homes per year. That's 99% less than promised. So can the Minister tell us where will the rest of the houses come from?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The PBO report assumes that none of the current affordable housing programs continue. And that's what will happen if the Conservative Party is in government. They have never delivered on affordable housing before, Mr. Speaker, and they never will again. Mr. Speaker, we are already working with provincial ministers, territorial ministers to put together the next generation of national housing strategy. It's a Team Canada approach. We are doing the work to renew our investment in affordable housing, something the Conservatives will never do.
The Honourable Member for York-Durham.
If bureaucracies built homes after 10 years, we'd all be living in a penthouse like the minister. What he fails to understand is that behind the numbers, behind the crisis, are real Canadians of the next generation shut out of the Canadian dream to earn, save, and own a home. In the GTA, housing starts are down 43% and sales are down 65%. So when the Prime Minister told young Canadians that they need to sacrifice more, why didn't he have the courage to tell them what he really meant was sacrifice the Canadian dream?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, it's rich to hear this from the party that has stalled the first-time home buyers GST cut since June. That's 5 months, Mr. Speaker, that the Conservatives have been stalling up to $50,000 for first-time home buyers so they can afford their first homes.
Hello, so we'll just leave it here. Thanks for, is it going to be a pipeline or a pipe dream in Canada? We'll just, let's see. We'll watch out what the government will do about this conditions regarding environment, indigenous people, and the whole of Canada.